Economics, money, is what brought African Americans to this country in the first place, and it's what's kept many of them from being able to get ahead ever since.
It goes back to slavery then?
Yes.
Some people would say that's done and over with, and the country has moved way past that.
I don't know if we can necessarily say that when you subject a group of people to conditions of not being afforded opportunities to learn how to read and write.
But what happens to the folks that don't have those resources? We forget that white people, through slavery and other methods of domination, were able to build assets, was able to pass it on generation to generation, whether it was a house, whether it was a trust fund.
And that's perhaps the key to our racial disparities, the root of the opportunity gap for Black Americans. They were not able to accumulate wealth like white Americans after World War II because something called the GI Bill, passed by Congress, kept many of them from being able to buy what economists say is the single most important asset for most families, a home.
The government backed over $1 billion to build homes, which was the boom of the suburbs and the middle class wealth. That was restricted for whites only. Blacks were not afforded those opportunities.
After the Civil War, slavery was replaced by what's known as Jim Crow, rules that kept blacks segregated in second class, everything from water fountains and bathrooms to where they could live and go to school. Even though 1 million served in World War II, they were not given the opportunity to invest in their futures the way white veterans were.
So in history, we understand that those things were created, some of them by our own government, and they were only limited to certain groups of people. That gives certain groups of people a head start. Doesn't make everyone bad or evil, but I think if people understood that academically, historically, this isn't just, an angry black man's propaganda, that this is history, it's on the books.
Not only did the 1944 GI Bill deny many Black World War II veterans that crucial opportunity to buy a home, it also refused them business loans, admission to whites-only colleges, and job training programs. Fast forward to 2013, when the Pew Research Center found that the wealth of white households in the U.S. was 13 times the median wealth of Black households. 7 decades since the GI Bill, and Black Americans are still living the legacy of their nation's institutional racism.
Sometimes we talk about the problem so much that the person that we're talking about or people that we're talking about, they get stereotyped in that way.
An example is 50% of people who apply for jobs that have black names don't get callbacks because of the name. So if my name is Jamal, I apply for a job, and Darren applies for a job, and we have the same credentials. More than likely, Jamal gets kicked to the side because Jamal is a black-sounding name. The research is out there and real.
There's another piece of history that factors into Wisconsin's economic racial disparities, the nation's welfare system. Some people argue that policies established in the 1960s war on poverty created a single-parent welfare cycle in black families that still exists today.
You couldn't get welfare benefits unless you were a single parent. If that parent was found living with a man, he didn't even have to be working. Welfare benefits were threatened to be taken away. It encouraged a lifestyle. And then it became generational.
And so generations went by with many black families having only a mother as their stable parent. In 2014, the percentage of Wisconsin children living in single-parent households was 25% for whites and 80% for African Americans. Now, compared to the national numbers, Wisconsin's were the same for white kids, but 14% higher for blacks. And the vast majority of those single-parent families are led by women and far more likely to live in poverty.
All the things that can seem obvious, that if you don't have someone helping you learn about that and you're a single mom with low resources, it's just impossible.
It's always hard for me to get a house when you don't have enough income to move into the apartment. They won't give you a chance.
Lavona Jones was a single parent with 3 kids for most of 2015 after her husband was arrested and put in jail.
So the police came and they arrested him,
and they were saying that he did like domestic violence, so he went to jail for that. And so by him wasn't there to help me, so I lost the home.
No longer able to afford their house in Madison, Lavona and her 3 sons lived with family members who had the room and resources to share.
What's it like to be looking at the end of the month and know that you're not going to have enough?
I really just pray about it. I just pray about it. And then my baby sister always asks me, when my husband was incarcerated, then she told me that I need help. And I say, yeah. Sometimes I feel sad about asking her to help me, but she still helped me.